Welcome to another Out of Spec video. You join me in North Carolina, beautiful sunny North Carolina. I am at the Ionna head office. I think it's the first time we're able to bring to you their office tour. It's not just office space, just looking at desks in a room. That wouldn't be fun. They also have their interoperability lab here, which means this is where they test cars and chargers and different firmware and software before stuff goes out to the field to make sure it all works for us charging EVs out in the public. So in this video, we're going to meet with Seth Cutler, the CEO of Ionna, and he's going to take us on a tour of their brand new offices here in Durham, North Carolina. North Carolina has really become a hotbed for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Many charge point operators such as Ionna are here, but also charging manufacturers are building chargers here in this state. I can think of Autel building chargers here, ChemPower and Alpitronic, all maybe not Alpitronic building chargers here, but at least have their HQ in North Carolina. So it's kind of got this new EV vibe to it, which is really exciting. And in this video, we are going to basically go on a tour of their new offices. I came here many months ago to have some meetings before even the first Ionna station went in the ground, where I was briefed on what the network is going to be, what's going to happen. It's been super exciting. And so now I'm going to take you on a tour of what the heck is going on behind the scenes at one of the best charging networks in the world. Well, guys, you joined me in Durham, and I actually used to live here for years in the Raleigh-Durham area, and maybe you'll see more videos coming from this area in the near future, not to spoil any details or anything like that. Let's come and look at the car park. That's always the most exciting thing about coming to an office, and then I'll take you inside. You can see the Interop lab over there. First of all, Ionna has their own F-150 Lightning, which is super cool. So they've got this. We have my Model S here. This is Ricardo's Sierra EV. If you checked out our video on Out of Spec reviews, we charged this thing at almost 400 kilowatts at their Garner location. On the Out of Spec Reviews channel, we've shown many different Ionna sites now. Not only their Apex location, which is where we held the first ever Out of Spec meetup, we also were able to sort of launch the entire Ionna network in partnership, in a sense, which was really cool to be able to, reveal their new charging station and network to the world at that site. So we've had this great relationship with Ionna from the beginning. Super fun. There's an Ioniq 6 here, Mustang Mach-E on temp tags, EV9, and there's an ID Buzz down there, which is kind of exciting because these are like their employee parking lot. And the one reason I'm taking you down here, here's an Ionna Silverado EV work truck, super sick. The one thing that's been so, I think, critical to Ionna getting things so right, going on our road trip across the country, we learned they know what EV drivers are looking for: trash cans, windshield washers, great amenities, canopies, chargers that work and give full power, things like that. The reason I think they're getting so many of these things right is because they actually drive electric cars. And it's the first thing I always ask when I tour a company is, what car do the people drive? And here at Ionna, almost everyone I know drives a battery electric vehicle, and certainly everyone at the very top level of Ionna drives a battery electric vehicle and goes on road trips and understands what needs to happen. With all that said, I'm going to introduce you guys to Seth, who's been on our channels a few times now, who's the CEO of Ionna. I think that's my buddy Itai pulling in that EV9. We're going to show how the charging works. Charge port's in the back, so he's probably just going to flip it around and back it into their Interop lab so we can give a sense of what is going on behind the scenes. And they've got a bunch of charging hardware in here. They've got Interop test stations. They have a bunch of cars from all their partner automakers and also just general vehicles, because keep in mind, Ionna is an open network here to charge every electric vehicle, not just the ones from their 8 partner automakers. And yeah, should be fun. Ripping it in there. Let's go on a tour. Guys, welcome to the channel. Seth Cutler, CEO of Ionna. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Always fun to see you. Always fun to come here. This is now my second time at your offices.
That's right. That's right.
Last time I was here, this was just a shell of a building.
That's right.
And holy smokes, you've got like charging equipment in there. It's crazy.
Ionna speed, man. Yeah. So we signed this thing back in June of last year.
Yep.
Opened it in January. So 6 months, empty shell, full office, full lab. It's going fast.
It's the whole network's going fast.
Yep.
It went from, the launch site at Apex to, I was able to hit 4 stations alone just driving out here from Colorado.
Just on I-70.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've only been in operation 14 months. Employee number one, over 60 people today. I mean, the team that we've hired is bar none the best in the industry, and these folks are killing it every single day.
So we're going to go on a little bit of an office tour today, just to behind the scenes, show everyone like where the magic kind of happens, because it is pretty magical how quickly things are going.
Yep.
I don't think anyone expected it to go this fast.
I remember watching some of the early videos when I first started, and there was a lot of people that were like, they're never going to figure this out.
Yeah, me included. I'm like, who are these guys? How's this going to work?
But we've made progress, significant progress. And the thing is, and we announced last week, over 200 sites contracted. Site number 13, Goodland, actually just after you left, opened this week.
Yep.
We've got 2 more going on next week. So I mean, the progress is incredible right now.
So you obviously probably had a bunch of places to choose as to where to base everyone.
Exactly.
So North Carolina is this like hub of EV stuff.
It's becoming that way.
Yeah.
It's becoming that way for sure.
And you're a huge driving factor of that. But why Durham? Why North Carolina?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, when we first started, it was like, hey, where are we going to put the headquarters? And there was 2 decisions. One, do we have everybody come together, or do we try to do this virtually? And it was early on. I was like, we got it. In order to go fast, we got to have everybody here. And when you go in the office, you see the energy, you see the vibe, the communication, what's going on. And then we looked really across the country, West Coast, East Coast, middle of the country, and Raleigh, just a great place, right? Great for business, great talent pool. It just really worked out well for us, honestly.
Yeah, I lived here for years, and it is such a great place. Yeah. And I left just as all the EV things came. So you've got your office here, and we can pan over this way. So let's show everyone. Actually, we had a meeting in that building the first time I was here.
That's right, the first time you're here.
Yeah,
that's right.
In there, which was super cool. But then you guys had this under construction.
Yep.
And so was there a tax incentive? Was there a reason to come to Durham? Like, why here?
Yeah, there definitely was. I mean, we worked with the local government. There was incentive in terms of hiring folks here and building an office here in Durham. And we're right next to RTP, Research Triangle Park. We're 3 miles from the airport, right? So I mean, it's just an overall great location, both at a macro standpoint about being in Raleigh, but even micro in terms of this particular address. There was a lot of reasons why we wanted to be here.
Okay, cool. I mean, it's a great spot.
Yeah, no question. It's a great office.
Let's go inside. And so obviously you have 8 automakers that are sort of backing this whole endeavor.
Yep.
And one of the things, I'll follow in the camera, one of the things that's super important is to make sure they all work on the chargers, but not just them, but everyone, of course. Exactly. So that's what happens back here.
Exactly. Well, and we talked about this last year. This is really our quarterback lab, right? So it's one of many that we have because we've got chargers at every one of the OEMs that we're testing with. So it's not just happening here, it's happening at the OEMs that we work with as well, because interoperability, customer experience, bar none, is the focus of the company. And we have to make sure that we're doing it right. So
how does that work? You'll have chargers, let's say at Mercedes or at Toyota or whatever, and if they issue a software update, they'll just make sure it works on the network. And
exactly. So as we're doing releases or they're doing releases, we're coordinating testing activities, we're coordinating test plans. We want to make sure that this stuff works before it hits the field. We're very careful about what gets pushed into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because the easiest way to bugger things up is to push out bad code, not fully test it. It has implications you don't realize. And so we go really deep, and we'll probably do this at a future point, but we'll even show you behind the scenes of how we're actually looking at the deep logs inside the vehicle, inside the chargers rather, in the cloud, all that stuff that comes together.
Yeah, let's pop in. Let's
do it.
Got a badge in. Yeah, everything's secure around here. Super cool.
After you.
Thank you very much. And man, first of all, I've been to a lot of interop labs. This is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of space here.
Yeah, 25,000 square feet for the whole HQ, and then we split it 50-50. So there's about 12,000 square feet here and equal on the other side of it. There's a glass wall, right? And so, what we wanted to make sure is that everybody in the company, it's one mission, right? We want to build out a great charging network, deliver a great customer experience. And so, even folks that work on construction can come in here, they can see what's going on the development side, on the testing side. So it's really, it delivers that kind of ecosystem approach, and everybody's all in on delivering that experience for folks.
Speaking of the experience, can we show what it's like to charge? So for the viewers who have never been to an Ionna site or haven't watched our other Ionna videos.
Let's do it. In fact, this charger, we had this, used to sit over there. We moved it here. We did a customer clinic last week. So we brought in folks from the area, learning a bunch. We're starting to think about different customer experiences, different labeling. So we talked about that last year, about all the sessions we ran and all the things that we did. And we're continuing that approach of how do we learn from the community? Because otherwise we're just thinking in our own headspace. We got to get out there. So that's what we did last week, and so that's why this thing's set up right here.
Yeah, and I heard so many of our viewers, like I was just seeing posts on social media and stuff, that were coming here and meeting with you guys, and that was like super cool.
Exactly.
And those are real people.
Exactly.
real
we
EV
put out
drivers.
online and say, hey, sign up, and we got people that we never met before showing up, and
Yeah.
we're going to be doing that on a quarterly basis going forward as we start
amazing.
to roll out new software.
So yeah, why don't you plug us in? Show us how this all works. Guys, we are going to simulate a mock session. So I'm going to have Seth plug in this Kia EV9 and essentially walk us through the customer experience, some of your thoughts on the workflow and why those came to be. And I think it's important to also mention this is the exact spot where that customer visits were just happening for a workshop.
Exactly. We did a customer clinic last week. About 45 people came in. We're going to do that on a quarterly basis to really go in and test all these new experiences, labels, firmware, software. So it's really part of our recipe of how do we work and engage with the community. So I'll walk you through a test session. But before I do, I think a couple interesting things. One is, we spent a lot of time on the credit card. And I think one of the things we get a lot of feedback on is, where's your app? And the answer is we don't have an app on purpose, right? I think, there's a lot of complexity with charging cars, chargers, software, credit card readers, and we wanted to make sure that irrespective of the customer, they could use the charger. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the credit card piece of this. And then in addition to that, we've got roaming with different CPOs. And the biggest thing is being able to work and integrate with all of the member OEMs, the investors and the partners in the JV. And so you see more of those announcements come out about plug and charge and that type of integration. But for us, really the cornerstone of the experience today, at least, is really around the credit card and being able to just be able to swipe a card and go.
And it's so funny that it's gotten to the point where that is the #1 most desired thing for EV drivers, because every EV driver has 50 apps on their phone and they don't know what to do, and it logs you out every time, and it's nice just to tap a card.
Exactly. So let me walk you through a session. So you can either plug in first or swipe first. I'll plug in first and then I'll swipe the credit card.
That's been the process that I've been going through most recently, is plug and then tap the card.
Right.
That way you don't have to necessarily select the connector here.
Exactly.
And it sounds like maybe some cars with plug and charge, if it's not properly set up, it could lead to some communication issues, but I heard that's also going to get fixed here pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, if you plug in first with plug and charge and then try to swipe a credit card, it can definitely confuse things.
Yeah, totally.
It's not really a large issue.
But no reason why you would need to do that if you have plug and charge set up.
Exactly. Yeah. So tap the credit card.
This is really nice as well. I'm not sure, is this new
This is new software that we're playing with right now, so it's not on the machines out there yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Things
this
are coming. So this is all part of the clinic that we did of, as we start developing new UI and screens, we're trying to get feedback from customers, right? So different stickers we're playing with. You can see these are paper stickers that we're working on. So.
Well, this is really smart too, because I'm sure a lot of early Tesla vehicles that aren't CCS enabled, they see native NACs and they're like, why won't this work?
Exactly, and that's been a big thing, is we're one of the first networks to put native NACs out there as part of the initial rollout. You get all types of folks showing up with all types of cars, and we had to start educating, hey, if it's an older Tesla, it may not work unless you upgrade.
It'd be really nice if there was an automatic way for this to detect it and show up on the screen.
Exactly,
yeah
I totally agree.
So that process is really nice. You interface the plug.
Yep.
You tap your card.
Yep.
And then we're charging.
And it just works.
And that's it's the bare minimum.
And exactly. And so you were at Garner today. You've been at Apex site, and that's why what you see is the overall experience that wraps around the charger, right? I think everybody in the past has been around the charger, the screens. This has to just work, right?
Yes.
And then we have to talk about the overall experience you have at the site. We always talk about, you go to a restaurant, you don't talk about, do I get food poisoning here? You talk about what are you going to get there, right? So same thing here. It's got to work, and then how do we up-level the entire experience at these sites?
And now I've had the chance to visit, 8 or 9 sites, something like that. I've been to a lot of that. Awesome. Not a lot in 2 years from now, but a lot right now. Well, and they've all been amazing.
It was so cool to see you go along I-70, because that was, as we start to build the network, that's the whole point, right? We're going to be in metros, in the cities, and we're going to have connecting corridors. So it's starting to come together.
The one thing that I really appreciate, if you can bring the camera in, we can show this as well, is, a lot of this is just built in from the hardware manufacturer, but I love that you kind of have a nerd menu for everyone. So we can come over here to charging detail. We need to rename that out of spec mode or something. And then you can see, volts and amps, which is super cool. So from my perspective, having built-in charging curves is just awesome.
Yeah.
I know Itai's going to kill us if we keep charging this car, because he's got to drain stuff.
He's going to be driving it home on the way. So exactly.
Okay. So we'll stop charging on there. But again, you can do everything from the charger super easily.
Exactly.
Or from the car. And it's everything just seems to work perfectly together so far.
And that's how it's going to work going forward too, right? So that's why we put so much time and attention to testing, whether we test here, whether we test at our OEM partners, and we're even doing testing at our actual sites on a regular basis as well. Yeah,
so the testing component, I think a lot of people probably don't realize, so many CPOs that might be involved in other businesses, whether they're a large scale retailer or a fueling retailer, and they're getting into chargers, they're just buying chargers and installing them.
Exactly.
And picking a back end and hoping it works.
Right.
You guys are taking the exact opposite approach. I think this building is proof of that. Maybe we can walk around and you can tell us a little bit more about
let's do it. I mean,
the testing portion.
I think a lot of people think of charging as I buy a charger out of the box as if like I buy a refrigerator and it just keeps my food cold.
Right.
And I think the big thing, I look at it like, actually, you're just buying a part of the refrigerator. You have to build the rest of it. And so a lot of what we're doing here isn't just testing, it's actually development work, right? We've developed some of our own software, some of our analytics and tools to help understand what's going on in the field to really drive down any issues that we have in terms of diagnosing an issue, repairing an issue, developing software to fix an issue. So this isn't just testing, it's actually development work happening here.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of the work being done here isn't just on the hardware side because, this comes from, thankfully, a local supplier, which is great. They're nearby. You can call them whenever anything goes wrong.
Come right here.
They're on their way. But you also have credit card terminals that are the bane of the charging industry's existence. Can you speak a little bit about, what you guys went through to make sure you had a really solid credit card experience? Because that has been, from an EV driver and CPO side, like the biggest issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go a little bit deeper too, right? I mean, think about all the ingredients that go into this, right? You have a charger, you have a credit card terminal, you've got a software backend, you've got integration with mobile apps, you've got different vehicles. I mean, it's an entire ecosystem that makes this possible. And so one of the things that we've done is we do what we call in-band integration with the credit card reader into our software platform that runs all these charging stations. So we have control over the reader and the overall experience that happens at that point in time. So a lot of testing goes on. We control a lot of the interface with that credit card reader deep into the firmware and into the software. And so that's the only way to really make that possible from an experience standpoint.
I mean, so far, like I mentioned to you earlier, off camera at least, but we've visited, I want to say we've done 8 sessions this trip just on Ionna, not even the slightest hint of a glitch.
That's awesome.
And so if that's the starting point,
that's awesome.
That's a really good place to start.
Exactly. And again, if we get charging right, then really what we talk about is what else can we do from an experience standpoint. And again, I talk about these sites, these rechargeries, right? These full rechargeries that we're building to really upscale. And then on the other rechargeries, the rechargery relays or the rechargery apps, right? Partnering with the right retail experience. So the charging piece works, like charging my phone. Now, what am I going to do while I'm there?
Yeah, then you can start to design what EV drivers want, and pretty much everyone on your team drives an EV, so you guys know what we want.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing that makes Ionna special is the team. I mean, the folks here every day are driving so much change and so much energy into the business to deliver what you see and what you saw on your trip.
So you've got not every partner automaker car here, but a large sampling here on site.
We're actually outside. So so what you see here is just a subset of our entire fleet. There's a whole other bunch of cars parked back that way and that way that we are constantly rolling in and out.
And so can you talk a little bit about what happens before a software release goes out? Because you have a couple things going on here, and we'll do a whole video on interop and all this stuff. But essentially, automakers will send software updates to their cars. You're updating your side. Is everyone sort of talking to make sure let's test everything before it goes out?
Yeah, so we're kind of the end of the funnel, so to speak, in terms of coordinating all that. So there's credit card reader software firmware, there's charger software firmware, there's the backend software firmware, and then there's stuff going on in the vehicles, and there's stuff on the app. So obviously there's some stuff in the ecosystem that potentially you can't control, right? There's other automakers, there's apps that are roaming with us. So what we're constantly testing on a regular basis, and then as we start pushing out different code, there's a very rigorous release process that we go through to make sure that it works. So stuff happens here first. We'll do actual pilot sites. Apex is a great place where we can do, this is alpha, beta,
and they're close by.
Is that Apex, exactly. And then we'll release to the production fully.
Very cool.
There's a lot of rigor that goes into how we roll this out.
Amazing. So a lot of that all happens here then.
Exactly.
So what's the future for this room? Right now, obviously you have a lot of unused space, it kind of feels like. What is going to come?
Yeah, so I think, as I told you before, right? I mean, I think everything that we do at a site has to happen here first. And so the things that you don't see here, but you see at sites are going to be here at some point, right? So if you saw something at Garner today, it'll be here in the future. Apex, the same thing, right? So we want to make sure, again, that the experience isn't just chargers and retail or chargers and the amenity, but the two of them combined. And so, this was what I call day one, but day two, you'll start to see a lot of the retail stuff, whether it's just walk out technology, whether it's some of the key locks. We'll start implementing that inside of this lab. So it really becomes an overall customer experience center, not just a charging experience center.
Yeah, that is super key. And I also have to commend you on that Amazon, walkout situation. That was amazing. And if anyone's watching this, you have to go to the reviews channel and watch our tour of the Garner location because Ricardo and I walked through there, and that was amazing.
It's a great site.
That was so cool.
It's a great site.
I just want to copy paste everywhere, but that's a huge site to copy paste everywhere.
It is, but I think we're starting to really you see more of these kind of pop up. Reynoldsburg is another great site in Ohio outside of Columbus where we've are leasing an old gas station, similar setup. We're not using Amazon technology there, but we've got basically a driver lounge inside.
Yep.
And there's more of those in permitting right now that we're working on.
So let's walk on down this way. So we've shown, this is where the interop comes. You've got, I actually remember before the garage door and the driveway went in, you had to like blow a hole in the
Exactly.
wall here.
That wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So this is all empty. I mean, this is an empty shell. Nothing. It was all white space that we worked with. And one thing I'll point out too, it's not just a lab. We actually use it for some of the warehousing. So you see some chargers out here that are being prepped to go out to sites right now that are in construction.
Yep.
And then down there, you'll see some Alpatronic boxes as well. So we store spare parts here. We have our own field techs. We have our own service vans. So we really want to make sure that things do break. It happens, but we can get on site as fast as possible.
Yeah, and for you guys, again, as a CPO, to have spare parts and spare chargers kind of here is another unique situation.
Exactly.
Because what you don't want to do is like call the charger maker and then have to wait for them to get everything ready and ship it to you. If you're super serious about building this network, you're sort of that buffer zone.
1,000%. We talk about it all the time about Ionna speed. It's all about biasing towards action. So we see anything goes on, we're automatically rolling a truck. And we had the Blue Spring site that you just visited. We had a power outage. Utility transformer went out on Saturday. And so we were already rolling a truck before we knew that it was a utility outage. We just rolled the truck with parts because we didn't know why.
Yeah.
We got there and the whole store's out.
Yep.
Okay, the power's coming back online, nothing for us to do. But again, if you don't have that type of culture that you've built into the organization, you can't get to where you want to on uptime.
That's super important. I mean, we'll see how that plays out into the future as stuff ages and, see how things happen. I'm sure you've already had countless unimaginable situations at charging stations.
All types of things will happen.
Things just happen in the public.
They're going to happen, right? In the wild.
So as we head this way, I think this is you mentioned it earlier, but the Ionna speed component.
Yeah.
You guys are building a network, not just in a localized area, but across the entire country.
Absolutely.
And it's happening so fast that it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of that work is from what's going on in here.
Yeah, exactly. So, we made a conscious effort to have everybody here in the building. As we
and you can pan around just to show, we'll walk through and just kind of take a look at what the heck's going on here. It's not super exciting because it's desks and people sitting there.
But it's working. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we moved, when we first started, we were out in California in a temporary office that we were leasing. And we were starting to hire people, and they said, well, if I come join Ionna, where do I have to move? And I said, I have no idea. But if you're committed to the mission, join the team. And so we've moved quite a few families and folks to Raleigh who started before we had picked Raleigh as headquarters in June. And then we've hired a lot of talent here locally. So it's been great to assemble this team and have these different folks here that want to go deliver on the mission.
We'll get into that in a second, because also you've got some cool things of the story here. You've got, of course, Ionna is a collection of multiple automakers, and this is the board.
Yeah, exactly. So this is our June board meeting of last year. We took the board in here and again, empty shell, right? So so you can see this is the garage door in the back where the lab is, and this is the line of demarcation between the lab and the office. So this is end of June last year. This was end of December last year. And here we are today in a fully built out operational office.
Yeah, which is just absolutely amazing to see, of course. And so, what are the type of roles that you have here? Are there other offices? When you call the call center, is that calling here? Is that offsite? What happens in this area?
Yeah, so in this area, it's everything, right? So we have our deployment team over here that's working on design, construction, real estate development. We've got our finance team next row over, legal. Our site acquisition team is a mix of both here and in the field. So we've purposely put our folks that are running partnership and site ac into different parts of the country because now they're local. They can help find sites. And then you've got our site operations team that's back over there, as well as what we call our business operations team that's really driving efficiency and throughput to get to that speed we talk about. So it's really a mix of all folks here. And then the tech team and part of our product team sit in the lab with our chargers, right, experiencing it every single day.
Yeah, we should actually show this over this area because this is super cool. I've been to so many different, I think almost every CPO's office, or at least many of them, and there is never this clear connection between the people that are working on the day-to-day business and the people that are making sure the stuff actually works in the field. It's always like the off-site garage somewhere. How important was it to you to have this?
This is a very intentional and important design piece that we put into the office. Again, it's all about making sure there's connective tissue between the teams, because we've all worked for lots of companies, right? And you kind of see how things can develop where it's like, that's that team. I just build sites, they just maintain them.
Yeah.
And what we have seen is like just a lot of folks that have come over and say, hey, we need help on construction. And okay, today I'm going to do construction if I have to, just to sprint capacity. So really building that connective tissue where it's all hands on deck to deliver on the mission.
Well, and to your point earlier on in this video, it's so important to have everyone in one building.
1,000%.
Because,
we couldn't do what we're doing without that.
Yeah, someone can just walk there and walk there,
Exactly.
and you're talking,
Gets
you don't
off
have
email,
to
get into a huddle, grab a whiteboard, sketch it out, make the call, make it happen.
Amazing. Well, super cool to see kind of where the magic happens.
Yep.
We have plenty more videos coming with you guys. I mean, we have a million Ionna videos planned. But so far, the experience from my side has just been really cool.
That's awesome.
It's cool to get to know everyone who's working on the site
Yep.
as well. So it's fun to come here. And, things are just kind of how they should have been from the beginning.
Yep, exactly. No, exactly.
Back to basics, credit card payment, power that give, juice that can give the card.
Works on the first try, all these things. So look, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I think, again, 14 months in, over 200 sites acquired, right? 13 sites live. We've got 16 more in construction. I mean, it's moving fast. So we're well on our way to 1,000 bays open this year, and looking to significantly grow that next year.
Cool. Well, thanks for the tour.
Yeah, thanks for coming over, man. It's
Appreciate
always a
coming to see the office and seeing everyone. Appreciate the transparency with our viewers.
Sure.
We love it.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching. So that's a little tour of the Ionna office. We'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.